crafters, and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from Designs by D, and today I have some fun Christmas in July tags to share with you now. This is the last weekend of July, but it doesn't mean you can't keep crafting for Christmas. I have a bunch of products here. I'm not going to use all of them. I just wanted to show you the ones you could potentially use. Now, there are some that are specifically for Christmas, which are these ones here, the Jolly Holly, Spruce Up, and Merry Tag. And then there are all these other ones that are a little more generic, but you could use them as well. So those two leaf fronds are perfect. And then you've got another tag size, a bow, and then a couple other foil plates you could use. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the first, not card, but tag that we're going to be making is this one here. Now I absolutely love this one. I have to say it's my favorite. This is the Wishes tag. So even though the sentiment here is not Christmas, we can use the tag shape to make a different shape of tag. And I wanted to show you just quickly what I use to kind of keep my foil plates on the packaging. So I've got these magnetic sheets and I just kind of peel off the back. There's like a sticky bit, and then attach it to the paper packaging there, the cardstock that has the name of the foil plate. And this just holds my foil plate on there. I don't have to worry about it being loose in the package when I put it back, or the little envelope, however you store your foil plates. And then I still know the name of the plate as well. So now I am going to do some foiling with this. So that diamonds background is absolutely stunning. I have to say right now, this is my favorite product from Crafty Meraki. Well, besides all the beautiful embellishments, because I'm just, I'm crazy for embellishments, but this foil plate is gorgeous. It has such detail in it, and the deco design of it is amazing. I'm a sucker for anything art deco, so that's probably why I love this so much. Now you can see that I'm using just some brass foil, and when you do foil it, the tag's a little larger. So what I've done here is I've cut the top of the tag from some gold pearl cardstock, and that's just going to help fill up the entire tag. Now, I'm going to be doing a Christmas tree with this. So I've got the spruce up set here, these dies, and there are actually, I think, 5 dies to make that tree, but I'm only going to use the top 4 of them so that it fits onto my slimline tag here. So I'm using an ombre of pink color. So I've got like white at the top, a little lighter pink, and then down to a darker pink at the bottom. But I did keep the shades really light because I like that light tone of pink. And that's kind of the color scheme I'm going with today. Like a light pink tone and then like a muted green tone. Now I'm cutting those little garland strands from some white glitter cardstock. And then for my sentiment, as I said, I wanted a muted tone, and I don't have a cardstock color that matches. So I just made one myself with some sage or muted green ink. And you can see I just foiled that tag there. It looks amazing. I had to wait a little bit for my machine to warm up, so that's why it took a while to get that done. But you can see it does cover the majority of tag except for the very top. So it does have good coverage. But as I said, I didn't want it to look a little weird there, so I am adding this gold piece at the very top just to kind of tie everything in and make the background of the tag look complete. So I'll just attach this here, and whenever I attach a different piece of cardstock to a pattern paper or a pattern background like this, I like to add just a piece of specialty cardstock as a strip, just to give it a finished look. Now I did cut 2 of these so that the bottom half I could put my sentiment on and stuff like that. So I'll keep that aside for when I put my string or ribbon through the hole. But for now, I can go ahead and assemble the tree. So I did cut the little wood base out of some gold mirror cardstock, and I'm adding that there to the bottom. And then I'm adding the rest of the tree, like all 4 layers, with some foam adhesive. So the foam adhesive, you could adhere it flat onto the tie, but I always like to add a bit of dimension wherever I can. So I have a ton of foam, squares, circles, all those types of things lying around, and I always try to add it wherever I can. It just helps your image kind of pop off your background just a little bit better. Now, for the garlands, I have three of them here. I did have to cut one of them down because keep in mind, one of them is for that larger base piece that we didn't use. So it doesn't really take too much there. Just cut off a little snip off the side and you can add that there. And then I'm adding the two other strands. The top one, I'm going to just tuck underneath the top leaves, or I guess pine bushes, or what should be pine bushes from the top layer there. You'll see I'll just tuck that right under because it looked a little weird going over the top. And that completes the little garlands. That looks so cute. Now I have my sentiment. So I'm not sure exactly where I want to put it. I always kind of just play around with my tag or my card, whatever it may be, and just put the sentiment in different positions, see what works. For this, I am actually just going to keep the tree completely visible. I'm not going to cover it up at all. I'm going to put the Christmas kind of hanging off a little bit off the edge on the left and right side at the top there, and then the wishes right below it so you can still see that beautiful tree. Now, since this cardstock was a custom cardstock that I made with my ink, I had mentioned in a previous video that I sometimes just use diamonds, or sorry, little gems for the dots of my eyes. On this one, it was important to keep those because I don't have a gem that kind of matches that color tone. So I was careful when I cut these out and held on to the little dots for the eyes. So I've just added those there. And now for a bit of bling, I've got some of these gold opal gems here. These work perfectly because it ties in that shiny gold from the background. It absolutely sucks that, I always, and I know everyone else really does. I know some people really have it down pat and they know exactly how to take photos and stuff with foiling, but I totally suck at it. So I'm so sorry. The foiling is amazing. The what it looks like here, it just looks like a black color, but the foiling on that diamond deco background in real life is absolutely stunning. So when you see me move it around, you will see exactly what it looks like, and in pictures it does not do it justice. So I do have to say this looks much better in person. Now I've also got these sparkle snowflake gems. They are perfect for the little tiny star on the top of that tree. They are a star shape, even though it says snowflake. So I got these and I was like, this would be perfect for tree toppers. So I did add that one there. Now I'm adding some white ribbon. Now this is a wide ribbon, so I kind of have to fold it into four and then put it through the hole. And then I've cut off the tops at an angle, which I think just has a nicer look to it. And then I've just got some cotton twine here that has some pink stripes on it. And I'm just going to tie this into a small bow. And I think this is a different way to tie your ribbon. I don't always do it like this, but I think this has a really nice look to it. It just has a little more to it, and you can really use your thicker ribbon here. So this tag is complete. And we can move on to the next one. Now, the next tag is a shaker tag. So the first one was just your plain old normal tag. This one is a shaker tag. And of course, I have to use the Merry tag. So I love the design of this tag. I like that it's got that like the two rounded corners, and then the pointed corners. So again, I have my color scheme with this. I've got the pinks and the deeper green. And for this, the front of the shaker, I want to do some stripes on it. Now, I want to show you all of my process. I've had some viewers in the past on my own channel kind of say, I like when you add the errors that you make. It kind of just shows us that, you're just like the rest of us. We all make mistakes. So I did want to show you my little bit of a mistake. And this was only because maybe I was rushing a little too much. If you took your time and made sure your fingers didn't get dirty like I did, like you can see my hand is on the pad there. That is just no wonder I got fingerprints on my tag there. And really what you just have to make sure is that you are masking properly. Don't let your mask move like mine did, and don't get fingerprints on your tag. So you can see it's a bit of a mess, so I decided to go to plan B. And so I just want to reiterate that you could use both techniques. You just have to be a lot more careful with the first one, and especially with your masking and getting fingerprints in places you don't want them. But for plan B, I'm going to do what I did with my cardstock for the sentiment in the last tag, and I'm just going to make my own custom cardstocks. So I'm taking my ink, I'm just dragging it along my white cardstock here, and I do want to express that I only do this technique with ink pads where I have the reinkers. Now, when you don't have the reinkers, you might just be drying out your ink pad, and then you won't have that ink to use later on. So I always try and use ink pads where I have the reinkers, that way I don't have to worry about my pads going dry. Not to mention, when I do this, I always re-ink the pads before adding the ink to the cardstock. It just helps the ink flow a little better and your colors come out nicer. Now you can see I'm taking the four strips that I added ink to, and I'm just cutting them into smaller strips. And I'm not doing the same size strips, so they're different widths so that I can get more of a random look. And that way you don't have to measure everything. It just makes the whole process easier. So now is where you have to be a little bit more diligent in the work you're doing. So I actually added adhesive. This is just a dot runner adhesive to about half or 2/3 of the tag so that I still have like a dry piece at the bottom there where I can kind of move it around. And then I'm taking the strips and I'm alternating the colors and I'm just adding them and I'm butting them up right against each other. So that's the main thing. You want to make sure that there's no gaps in between the strips, and you want to make sure that they're right on that cardstock, not overlapping, because when they overlap, they're not going to stick down completely. They could get caught on something, and then again, it looks messy. So that's the main point with this one. You have to make sure you're butting them right up against the one before it, and then continue to alternate with those strips of paper right down until the bottom of your tag. And once you get down to the bottom, what you can do is then kind of cut around your tag. Now you'll notice that the hole for the tag is going to be gone and all of that stitching around the edge is going to be gone. So what we're going to do is cut this down as much as we can right up against the edge. And then we're going to put this back into the die and run it through our die cutting machine to get all of that detail back. So if this were the technique that I had decided I was going to do to start off, then I probably would have done this first and then cut the die out. Or rather, use the die to cut the tag out. That way it would have saved me an extra step, and I wouldn't have had to do this extra, cutting along the edge here. So that would be the way to go for this technique if that's the one you decide you want to use. So now that I've kind of cut around the edge, I decided, okay, I am not going to make this a fruitless an extra step here. So I've lined this up with the die, and then I also added the Mary in the center, which is what I was going to do anyways, which would have been an extra step here. So now, everything is kind of evening out. So I'll line up that Mary die in the center, and then I'll cut the entire thing out. I did run it through my die cutting machine twice because now I'm cutting through 2 layers of cardstock rather than 1. Okay, so I have another tip here to share with you. Once you've done all of this, before you cut out that Mary or put that other die through your machine again, please make sure that all of the ink on those pieces of cardstock is completely dry. So before you actually add your strips, you might want to dry it with a heat tool. Make sure it's completely dry. I did not, and when I added that washi tape to position the die and put it through, it kind of removed a bit of the cardstock there at the bottom. I will add my sentiment there to kind of cover that up, so you really won't see it afterwards. So there's always a way to fix it, but just so you know, please make sure that the ink is dry. Okay, so continuing on with my shaker, I've added my acetate to the back there just with some plain old tape runner. And now that I've added the acetate, I have to kind of define my letters again. So I have all of the inner portions of the M, the 2 little triangles there. Then I've got the center of the R's, and then that little piece at the bottom there between the bottom of the R and the Y. So I have to carefully detach this from the die, and then I'm just using some liquid adhesive just because it's easier to move these little pieces around with the liquid adhesive before it completely sets, and make sure that they're in the exact right position to spell out the Mary the way it should look. Now, once I get all of these little pieces in position, I can take that Mary that we cut out, and I am not going to waste that. I'm going to use that on the last tag, so just keep that aside. Now I have to create the actual well for my shaker bits. So I've got these lined foam pieces here. I should actually include them in the description below. So as usual, all of these videos, we've got the links to all of the products that we're using, all the Crafty Meraki products, and some of the other products that you might see within the video or that are used off screen that you might want to take a look at that we use to make all of our cards, and in this case, my tags. So the main thing you want to do here is make sure that you've created that well. It is completely contained so that your shaker bits aren't going to go anywhere. And then I added a little extra foam around the top and bottom so that the whole piece is kind of lifted off the tag at the same distance, so it's on the same plane. Now I've got some matte gold cardstock. And I'm actually going to use this behind the Mary. And it's just going to make, I thought that the white was just a little too bright, or sorry, not bright, but it's too light. It kind of blends into the light colors of the pink. So I wanted to add this gold, and the gold ties in the gold that we're using in this color scheme. And it is just going to highlight the shaker bits that we add. Okay, so for shaker bits, I've got these small little crystals. Now, Crafty Meraki has a ton of gorgeous embellishments that you could use to do this. However, I do understand that you might not want to waste those embellishments because they are so gorgeous and they do cost probably more than I'm using here. These little crystals come from, if you look at the little katana sticks or the little embellishment sticks, when I'm done with them, I always empty those out, and that's where these are from. I think I bought something online, and it had like a wire that went along with it that had all these little crystals in it, and that's where that's from. So I'm just upcycling here. So you could use anything. The other part that I added in there was just a bunch of seed beads as filler, and they give the same sort of look. So you could just use seed beads, and you know that seed beads are very cheap to buy from any craft store. So let's save those beautiful Crafty Meraki bits for the front of our card. I added the wishes there and some gold glitter cardstock, and that covers up the little pieces of cardstock that kind of came off after we die cut the Mary. And then I'm adding some of those gold opal gems again, just to again tie in the gold. Now for my ribbon, I've got some green velvet ribbon here, and I'm just gonna tie off a simple ribbon at the top here. I'm just putting it through the hole, and then I'm tying a little knot in the top. And that's all there is to it. Now it takes a little bit because the velvet makes this string just a little bit thicker. And then once I've kind of tied it off, that green goes nicely with the rest of the tag. Okay, so this is a little bit of a longer video, so please hold on if you're still with me. I have one more tag. Now this one uses that extra Mary piece that we had cut out from the second tag. So what I'm doing here is I am just measuring how far, a little bit extra. So I'm scoring this at 3 inches. And then when I score it, I can cut off the extra bit. And then what I'm going to do is create a folding tag here. So that's what this tag is. It's a folding tag with a little pocket so that you can put a gift card in it. Maybe you want to fold up some money and put that in it. So that's what this tag is for. Okay, so you can see that I actually took the die and I attached it to that folded piece of cardstock with the fold a little inwards so that the die doesn't cut it on the left side. Okay, and then I cut it out, and then you can see that it folds open and keeps the shape of that tag. Now I'm folding a second piece of cardstock in the exact same manner, and I'm only doing about half the size, and this is gonna, I'm doing the exact same thing, kind of putting it in the die with the right side now a little bit inward so that it doesn't cut the right side and keeps the fold. So after I've done that, I am just cutting off the right side piece there so that I can create that little pocket, and that little tab is what I'm going to use to attach to the die. So you can see how that all kind of comes together. We will assemble it later and you'll see exactly what I mean. So moving on, you could have foiled just the front of that tag since it already folds open, but I did want to make sure that my foiling was absolutely perfect. So what I did was I took another piece of cardstock And now I'm taking that Ballad of Heart foil plate and I'm foiling it with this satin pastel green colored foil. I thought that this goes with the muted look of the greens that I'm using, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So again, this foil plate is not large enough to cover the entire tag. So this time I'm going to keep the design from the foil plate at the top, and then at the bottom I'm going to add a piece of cardstock. So there was some of that green cardstock that we had created earlier left over. I'm just going to cut the bottom piece with that, and I'll attach that to just make this entire tag completely done up. And now again, as I mentioned, I like to add that little strip of specialty cardstock, and I'm going to add some gold glitter cardstock there. So now I can go ahead and add the Merry sentiment, but before I do, I did want to add just something a little extra. So I've gone to those spruce up dies again, and there are actual gifts. They're little presents that you can make from the dies there. So I cut out a couple of the gift boxes from some gray cardstock, and then I cut out the little bows from some gold mirror cardstock. Again, the gold, it's tying that accent color into the rest of the tag. I'm using some of those thin strips of foam to attach the ribbon. Again, I'm adding that dimension there because I like that little pop of dimension. And then I will attach these two presents at the bottom of the tag as you see there. Now, as I mentioned before, I have to create the pocket. So I've added some strong adhesive to that little flap that we cut for the bottom portion of the pocket, and I'm attaching it to the inside of the tag, so you can see it just folds open there. Now you might have to cut just a tiny little sliver off the left side of that little pocket just to make sure that when you open and close your tag it does so without any restriction, because if it's the exact same size it might butt up against it a little bit. So I've done that. I've got my little pocket now because I added some adhesive just around the edge, and I can fit in a gift card. So a standard size gift card should fit in here. You should have no problems with that. And money, of course, if you fold that up, you're not going to have an issue. Now for the front of this tag, I'm just adding that the tag that we put together, the background there. And now we can finally assemble everything. So I know I said I normally added foam adhesive here. I figured I want the presents to be the things that pop. I mean, the sentiment is pretty self-explanatory and pops with all of that color as it is. So I didn't need to add foam adhesive, but I will do to one of the presents at the bottom there. And the second present, I just adhered flat to the tag. Now I've got some more ivory opal gems here, and I wanted to add these. Are they ivory opal? I'm sorry. I have them listed below. I think these are more sparkly. They are beautiful, and it just adds just a little bit of shine to that tag. Now for the ribbon, I'm going to keep it simple here. I'm just using some metallic green and some gray striped cotton twine here. I'm just going to put it through. Now you have to keep in mind that you have to be able to open this one. So you have to kind of add a bit of extra string, tie it a little higher up so that you can open and close this tag. You can see the way I like to do that is tie it while the tag is open. That way you know you've got enough string there. And those are my 3 tags. So Christmas tags, 3 different ways. We have the normal tag here. We have a shaker tag, which is super fun and is gorgeous with all of those little embellishments inside. And then you have a folding pocket tag that you can add a gift card or some money to on the inside. So I hope you've been inspired to create some tags along with your cards for your Christmas in July card making. These are 3 different ways to make some tags, and I hope that at least one of them is useful to you. Have a great day, guys. As mentioned before, all the products are listed in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you again next time. Bye.